Good mo Hi guys. Hi guys. Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is load balancing, why we need to go for load balancing, how many ways we can implement load balancing. So if we deploy our application in one server, then all the requests will go to single server, then burden will be increased on the server. When burden increased on the server is going to crash and the responses will become very slow. If the responses are becoming slow or if the server is down, customers will not like to use our application, which will impact on our business. To avoid this problem, in the real time, every project will be deployed with multiple instances. Nothing but same application we are going to run in multiple servers. When the same application is running in the multiple servers, then requests also will be distributed to multiple servers. The process of distributing the request to multiple servers is called as load balancing. That load balancing we can implement in two ways, guys. One is called server side load balancing. Another one is called client side load balancing. Server side load balancing and client side load balancing. When we go for server side load balancing, all the requests will go to load balancer server. Load balancer server will distribute the request to other servers which are connected to that. When we have this kind of load balancing, if any one server is failed also, there is no problem. The reason the remaining servers are going to handle the request. Okay, here, if you don't want to go for server side load balancing, then you can use a concept called client side load balancing. What is the meaning of client side load balancing? There are three servers available to run our application. Client only will decide which request should go to which server. If you go for server side load balancing, load balancer will decide which request should go to which server. Here we implemented this load balancing by using FIN client. FIN client is used for inter-service communication. When we are using FIN client to access one service from the another service, FIN client will communicate with the service registry to get the service URLs. So as per our diagram, welcome API running in more than one server. So FIN client will get all the URLs from the service registry and it will use one request for one server with the help of ribbon. Ribbon is a inbuilt concept in the FIN client to distribute the load to all the servers in the round robin fashion. Then after we understood a concept called auto scaling. We understood a concept called auto scaling. So can anyone tell me what is auto scaling in the real time? What is the benefit of auto scaling, guys? Why people will go for auto scaling? It is used to scale up or scale down servers to run our application. It is used to scale up or scale down servers to run our application based on traffic, based on incoming traffic. So what is the meaning of that? If more number of requests are coming, then more servers will be created to run our application dynamically. If less number of requests are coming, it will reduce the number of servers to run our application, because we cannot decide how many servers are required to run our application. If I keep 10 servers, if I get more traffic, 10 servers also not sufficient. If I keep 100 servers, if I get less number of requests, unnecessarily cost will be increased for the infrastructure. So we cannot decide how many servers are required to run our application. That's why we are going to use a concept called auto scaling. It is used to scale up or scale down servers to run our application based on the incoming traffic. What are the benefits we are going to get with this one? First one is fault tolerance. What is the meaning of a fault tolerance? What is the meaning of fault tolerance? If any server is down, then it will replace with the another server. Suppose I have taken 10 servers. out of 10, one server is failed due to some memory issue, due to network issue, due to resources, one server is crashed. If any server is crashed, then auto scaling is going to recreate a new server in place of that damaged server. And second one is high availability will be available for our application. What is the meaning of high availability? There is no chance that all the servers will be down. If any server is down, automatically it will create a new server. So always our application will be available for the customers to access. And what is the third benefit we are having? Cost management is available. What is the meaning of cost management? What is the meaning of cost management? Unnecessarily, you no need to purchase hundreds of servers. If it is really required, it will add the servers. If they are not required, it will delete the servers. So you can save the money by using this auto scaling concept. Okay, good. Then after we understood what is API gateway in our microservices architecture. So if you see in the diagram, API gateway is going to act as a front gate, or it is a entry point for all the servers we are having, all the microservices we have in our application. So requests will not go to our microservices directly. Requests will go to API gateway. API gateway will decide that whether to process this request or not, and which microservice is responsible to process this request. API gateway will act as a entry point for all the microservices available in our application. Every request will go to API gateway. In that API gateway, we can execute a filter and we can execute the routing also. What is the purpose of the filter in the API gateway? Filter you can use to validate the request, whether it is a valid request or not. If request is valid, then filter is going to forward the request, then routing is going to execute. What is the meaning of that routing? Routing is used to forward that particular request to particular microservice based on the URL pattern. So in the last session, we have created API gateway also. And if you observe, API gateway is also acting as a Eureka client. So API gateway also acting as a Eureka client. Why API gateway acting as a Eureka client, guys? What is the reason for that? For discovering the services based on the service name. If you see in the API gateway, we have configured routes here. So what is the routing configuration? If a path is /welcome, I'm telling to go for welcome API. Welcome API can have one URL or it can have more than one URL also. Am I forwarding the request to welcome API URL, welcome API name? I can configure like this also. Whenever the request comes with /welcome, then send this request to localhost 8081/welcome. If I do like this, what is the problem? Hard-coded URL. Tomorrow, I will run my welcome API in multiple instances. Load should be distributed. For that reason, what we are configuring here, LB:\welcome API. You go and check with the welcome API in the service registry. If there is more than one instance, then you distribute the load to all the servers in the round robin fashion. That is our routing configuration here. Similarly, when it comes to the greet API, if the path is /greet, then forward the request to greet API. Today it is having only one instance. Tomorrow it can be multiple instances also. Dynamically, this API gateway should identify what are the how many instances available for these microservices. If there is one instance, directly send to that URL. If we have more than one instance, then implement client-side load balancing here also. So in two places, load balancing is happening. One is at the API gateway, load balancing is happening. Another one is at the VN client also, load balancing is happening. So we are able to create our microservices project. So in our application, we have welcome API, which is having two instances. One is running on 8081, another one is running on 8082. These are two servers, guys. Two instances, nothing but two servers. In the two servers, same application is deployed. Its URL pattern is /welcome. And I am having a greet API, which is having only one instance running on the port number 2222. In that greet API, we have a URL pattern called /greet. Then we have created API gateway project also that is running in one instance. You can run API gateway also in multiple instances, no problem. API gateway currently running with one instance. Its port number is 3333. So now we will send a request to our microservices directly, or we should send the request to API gateway. We should send the request to API gateway, which is running on the port number 3333. So if you see here, when I send a request to API gateway with /welcome, then what will happen? Request will go to API gateway project. Then it is going to execute the routing. My path is /welcome. It is matching with this path here. Then it will forward the request to welcome API. If I send a request to localhost /3333/greet here, then this path is matching with this path here. When the path is /greet, then the request should be forwarded to greet API. So that request routing is happening in the API gateway. So this is our microservices project. Here we have not created the filter. Today we will create that filter also. What we will do in that filter? So whenever a request comes, that is a HTTP servlet request. That request we will take as an input for the method in the filter. In the filter, we will create a method. In that method, servlet request object will be available. That servlet request object contains information sent by the client. Client is sending any request headers. Client is sending any request body. That data will be available in the servlet request object. Using that request object, we can access the client information. What data client is sending to the server? Is that client is a valid client request or not? We can validate that in the filter concept. Before going to the filter, any questions, anybody? Anybody having any questions here? Anybody having any questions? Online students, did you practice this application yesterday? Is it working? Anybody not able to do it? Just listening to the theory will not help you. So if you want to get the confidence as a microservices developer, you should implement this project on your own. Yes, Nandishwara. That means in the filter, you can implement authentication and authorization logics also. If we have multiple instances of the API gateway, then you need to suppose currently API gateway is available with only one instance. Suppose if I run API gateway in the multiple instances, then I need to access like this. 3333 one API gateway, 4444 one API gateway will be available. Then again 3333 will be one API gateway and 4444 one API gateway. But in general, we don't run API gateway in multiple instances. API gateway will be available in one instance. If you want to run, that is possible, but we no need to do that. Right, guys. So if you see here, in API gateway, mainly we will have three types of logics. One is routes will be available. Second one, predicates will be available. Third one, filters will be available. Can you please read this point? routing is available in the API gateway. What is the purpose of routing in the API gateway? Routing is used to define which request should be processed by which REST API in the backend. These routings will be configured by using predicate. Predicate means what? It is a Java 8 function predicate. The input type is framework web exchange. This lets you match anything from the request, such as headers or parameters or URL patterns. Okay, now how we are configuring the routing? Predicate. If a path is equal to /greet, this is a condition, guys. By using predicate, we are writing a condition. Predicate is a Java 8 component. Okay, here we are writing a predicate path is equal to /greet. If this path is matched with /greet, last person, can you know? So we are writing a predicate here. What is the meaning of that predicate? Predicate is nothing but a conditional check. Here, what is the condition we are doing? Path is equal to /greet. What is the meaning of a path is equal to /greet? If a request comes, if the URL pattern matching with the /greet, then only forward that request to greet API. If a path is equal to /welcome, if this condition is satisfied, then only forward the request to welcome API. So here in the API gateway, we will have three types of logics. What is the first logic in the API gateway? Routings will be available. What is the second logics in the API gateway? Predicates will be available. Okay, routing is used to define which request should be processed by which REST API in the backend, microservices. It will be configured by using predicate. Predicate is a Java 8 functional interface. It is used for conditional checking. So you can forward the request based on the request URL pattern, based on the request header, based on the request parameter also. Okay. Now here filters are used to manipulate the incoming request and outgoing response of our application. So whatever the request is coming, before the request is going to actual microservice, we can manipulate that request also. And any response is going back from our application, we can manipulate that response also. Filter is entry point for each and every request. Okay, the request will come to the filter, then filter can do some operation on the request. Filter can take a decision whether to process that request or not to process that request. Using filters, we can implement a security also for our application. Instead of writing security logic in each and every microservice, we can write the security logic at only one place in the API gateway. When the request comes, that filter security logic will be implemented. If request is passed in that security, then only it will be processed. Otherwise, the request will not be processed. Now, here we can create a filter in the API gateway. In order to create a filter in the API gateway, we are going to implement one interface called global filter. There is an interface called global filter interface is available. In that global filter, there is a method called filter method is available. Okay, let us create that filter now. Go to API gateway. Now here, API gateway project is available. New class. I'm creating app filter. This filter is implementing one interface called global filter. From which package it is coming? Cloud gateway filter. This interface is coming. Click on finish. So with this, we are able to create one class which is implementing global filter. Let me represent this as a Spring Bean. How do we represent this as a Spring Bean? By using @component. By using @component, we are returning this. Now, can you check what is the method we are overriding from the global filter? First, let's go to global filter. From which version it is available? Since 5.0. Can you read this one? Contract for interception style. Chained processing of gateway requests that may be used to implement cross-cutting application agnostic requirements such as security, timeouts, and others. So any cross-cutting logics, that means any secondary logics which are common for all the microservices in our application, can be implemented by using this filter in the API gateway. So we are implementing one interface called global filter. In that global filter, what is the method available? Filter method is available. Inside this filter method, we are having server web exchange is one parameter, gateway filter chain as a another parameter. Using this exchange method, exchange dot get a request. Using this one, get a request. What is the meaning of get request? What is the meaning of get request? Client is sending a request to the API gateway. Client will send a request with some headers. Client will send request with some body also. Whatever the request client is sending, that complete request we can access in the filter. Now, how can we do the validation? I will tell to my clients, hey, client, when you are accessing my application, you are going to send one HTTP request to my application. In that HTTP request, like this, localhost colon 3333/welcome, something like this, you are sending a request to me. When you are sending this kind of request for me, you send one header also in the request, something like you send one token to me. That token is abc@123. In the request, if this token is coming, then only I will consider you as my client. If you are not sending this token, I will not consider you as my client. Like this, we need to inform to our clients how they need to send the request to our application. So this is one example I'm telling you. How do we validate that request is valid or not? So any client who want to access my application, my microservices, for security reasons, I will ask them to send a token in the header. Okay, so here they can send the request with the tokens headers. Key can be anything, value can be anything, and I'm asking them to send some data in the body also. For example, they're going to send some data in the body. Request header is available and request body is available. So this is a get request. With this URL, they are sending to this URL, they are sending a request. When they are sending the request, they can pass some headers in the request. They can pass some body in the request. This complete information, URL, headers, body together is called as one HTTP request. Together it is called as one HTTP request. That HTTP request we are accessing in the filter. Get request is available. Once we got this request, by using this request data, get a headers. Can I get the headers which are coming in the request? Yes, we are able to get the headers which are coming in the request dot get body. Okay, whatever the headers they are sending in the request, whatever the data they are sending in the body, everything I can access in my filter. Okay, now if I got the headers, can I validate token header is having a value or not? Token header is available or not? If the token header is available, then only I will process the request. Otherwise, I will not process the request. Okay, return. Once it is done, exchange data. What is this method to process to proceed further? Return chain dot filter. Return chain dot filter with the exchange method. So what is the meaning of this is return chain dot filter. Chain dot filter means forward this request to the next filter if available. If next filter is not available, send the request to the actual microservice they are accessing. Conditionally, here, can I do some logic? If condition, my request is available, request dot get method get path get query parameters are available. Request dot, 1 minute. Request dot get ID, get method, get path, get remote address. Now request dot, suppose for example, I'm going to check some condition. Okay, is valid. If it is not valid, can we send error response to the client without calling this method? If I call this method, then only request will be forwarded to actual microservice. If I don't want to forward this request to actual microservice, then what I will do? Here only I will return some error response. I will not do anything here. If I don't do anything here, if I don't call this one, else I'm going to call like this. Else return chain dot filter. What is the meaning of that? Boolean is valid is equal to false conditionally. I'm going to make this conditionally. Now here I will return null value. Then what will happen? If the request is valid, then only if the request is invalid. If it is not valid, then I will send error response. I will not proceed further. If the request is invalid, then what we will do? We will not forward that request. So how do we validate that request is valid request or not? How do we validate that request is valid request or not? Based on some headers, based on the body, or based on the headers. I will tell to my clients, whenever you are sending a request, you send some token in the request. If the token is coming correctly, then it is a valid request for me. If the token is not coming, then it is a invalid request for me. Are you guys able to understand? Now, so currently, let me print all the headers that we are getting in the request. Let me print all the headers that we are getting in the request. Okay. System.out.println of headers. Let us see. When we send the request to the API gateway, what all the headers are coming here? Currently, we don't know Spring Security. Once we go for the Spring Security, that security logic can be implemented in the filter. First of all, let us verify. For every request, is this filter is getting called or not? For every request, is this filter getting called or not? Okay. So let me write a method, system.out.println filter method called. Just for understanding, routing is executing. Yesterday only we verified that routing is working. Now I want to see this filter is getting executed or not. What I am doing in this filter, I am printing headers. Any headers which are coming in the request, I want to print those headers here. Perfect. Let us run our applications. Project clean all the projects. Yes. Which application we need to run in this diagram? What is the application that we need to run first in our application? Service registry we need to run. Service registry, admin server, in any order, because these three are independent here. We can run any application. Okay. Right click, run as boot application. Eureka server is running. Then admin server is running. Then Zipkin server. Go to Zipkin server, jar file, Java space, -jar space, Zipkin jar file we are running. Very good. Go to browser, localhost : what is the port number? 8761 for Eureka dashboard. Currently, no instances available in the Eureka. Localhost : 9090. No application registered in the admin server. Localhost : 9411. Zipkin server, there is no information in the Zipkin as of now. Okay. Once these services are started, what is the next step now? Eureka is started, admin is started, Zipkin also started. What is the next step now? Start the microservices, Welcome API and Greet API. One instance for the Welcome API or more than one instance for the Welcome API? More than one instance for the Welcome API. Can you tell me how to run the Welcome API with more than one instance? Right click, run as, run configuration. Go to select this API. Select the API here. That is very important. Then go to arguments. -d server.port. What is the purpose of this argument? passing the port number for the embedded server in the runtime. You can configure in the YML file also. You can pass in the runtime argument also. Why we are not configuring in the YML? Always it will take the same port number. That port number I can use only for one server. Multiple servers I can't start with the same port number. That's why I'm passing this port number as a runtime argument. -d server.port is equal to 8081. Apply and run this one. So with this, I'm running welcome API with one instance, guys. Refresh this one. Welcome API is started. What is the status? Up. How many instances available? 1. This is the URL running on the port number 8081. Then go to greet API, run as, welcome API, run as, run configuration, arguments, 8082, apply and run. So with this, we are running welcome API with 2 instances, nothing but it is running in 2 servers now. So in the service registry, we can see that information also. Welcome API started with 2 instances. Those 2 instances are up and running. Then go and run the greet API, run as boot application. Greet API is having a fixed port number, that is 2222. In one instance, our greet API is going to execute. Refresh. Now see, welcome API running with 2 instances, greet API running with only 1 instance. Then finally, run our API gateway, which is also acting as a client for the Eureka server. So let us run our API gateway, which is also acting as a client for the Eureka server. So update this project. We have created a filter. Yesterday we created API gateway with routing. Today we added filter in the API gateway. Currently validation logic is available. Request validation logic not available. Request validation logic is not available. Just we created a filter. We are verifying that really that filter is getting called for every request or not. So in the filter, we are able to access the servlet request. What we can do with that request? We can see to which URL pattern the request is coming, when that request is coming. Okay, what are the headers available in the request? What is the body available in the request? All the information about the request we can access in the filter. So if you have the headers, if you have the body, if you have the URL pattern, you can use that data to verify whether it is a valid request or not. You can implement authentication logic. You can implement authorization logic also. You can decide whether to process that request or not by using that filter. Now, let's run this filter now. Let's run this API gateway. Go to Eureka. Currently, API gateway is registered with the Eureka, not registered with the Eureka, not registered with the Eureka. Send this request, run as boot application. Now, API gateway project is getting started. API gateway project is started. Go to Eureka. Now, can you see? Can you see? API gateway is registered with the Eureka server. Now, can we say API gateway is acting as a client for the Eureka? Yes, we can say it is also acting as a client for the Eureka. What are the logics available in the API gateway, guys? How many types of logics in the API gateway? There are 3 types of logics available in the API gateway. What are those 3 types of logics? One is routing, second one is predicate, third one is filter. What is the purpose of routing in the API gateway? To decide which request should be processed by which microservice. So to do that routing, how do we identify which request should be processed by which microservice? Based on the predicate. So we are using URL pattern to identify which request should go to which microservice. That configuration we are doing by using predicate. Next one, filter we created just now. Inside the filter, we can access complete servlet request information. Headers will be available, body will be available. Good. Now, let's go to console, clear this console, observe our API gateway console. I have cleared. nothing is available in the API gateway console. If you see this system symbol, it will show you what all the applications are running. Service registry running, admin server is running, welcome API running in 2 servers, greet API is running, API gateway is also running. Now go to browser and send a request. So I'm sending a request to server which is running on the 3333 port number. In the 3333 port number, which server is running as per our diagram? API gateway. That means I'm sending the request to API gateway application with /welcome as a URL pattern. See the behavior. Yes. Localhost colon 3333/welcome. Okay. Now I'm not sending any data in the body and all that stuff because it is a get request only /welcome I'm sending. Click on send. When I send the request, am I able to get the response successfully? From 8082 server, I got the response. Go to console and see this one. Go to console. See the API gateway console. What is this, guys? What is this? Filter method is executed. And what it printed in the filter method? All the headers that we are sending in the request. Am I sending any headers? These are the default headers which are going to the server. These are the default headers which are going to the servers. So we are able to access our headers by using request, and we are printing those headers on the console. Header nothing but key and value pair will be available. Key and value pair will be available. Now, instead of printing all the headers in the single line, here headers nothing but a map, guys. Headers dot get key set. Headers dot get a key set. So I will get headers nothing but a map object. Key value, key value. If you see the console, all the headers, how they are available? This is a key and this is value. This is a key, this is value. This is a key, this is value. So in the Java, who will represent data in the form of key and value format? Map is going to represent. So HTTP headers object is a map concept. HTTP headers is a map concept. So can we iterate the map directly in the Java? No, we cannot iterate the map directly in the Java. Okay. Now here we are going to access a key set method. What is the meaning of headers.key set method? It will give you all the keys which are available in the header. If I know the key, based on the key, can I get the value? Based on the key, can I get the value? Yes. Key set dot for each. Key set dot for each key I'm going to take here. Then I'm going to get headers dot get of key. From key set, I'm going to get the each key. From that key, I'm getting the value. Okay. So by using key, I'm getting the value. String value is available. Oh, it is giving list of strings. One header can have multiple values. Headers dot get. It is giving list of string. Nothing but values. One key can have more than one value. Then what I will do? System.out.println of key plus system.out.println of values. Key will be printed. For that key, values also will be printed. After printing those values, I'm going to print one line for our understanding. I want to separate each key value pair printing on the console. This is just for understanding what are the headers coming in the request. Okay. Now, so let me save it. Are you able to understand what is the logic I have written? We created a filter. How we created this filter? This filter we created by implementing a global filter concept. So here we are overriding filter method. What are the parameters available for the filter method? Server web exchange method is available. Gateway filter chain method is also available. By using exchange, we are able to get the request information. From the request, I am able to get the headers information. Headers nothing but a map. more than one key value pair will be available. List of entries available in the map. How do we get the key values from the map? First, I am getting all the keys by using key set. I am iterating the keys by using for each method. For each key, I am getting the value. Then I am printing on the console what is the key and what are the values available for that key on the console. Are you getting my point? Now, so let's do this one. Send a request again, clear the console. We modified the code for the API gateway. API gateway is not restarted, guys. There is no dev tools available. Let me stop my API gateway. Observe. So I want to stop only API gateway and I want to restart. Go to this consoles, select API gateway and click on this button. So with this, what happened? API gateway project is stopped. With this, API gateway project is stopped. I modified that code. Let me restart the API gateway again. Run as boot application. Go to the console. Clear this one. API gateway. It is started. Go to Eureka. Now I have stopped and started my API gateway because there is a code change in the filter method. Now go back to this consoles, select API gateway console. Anything available in the API gateway? No. Go to Postman, send the request once again. From where I am sending the request to the API gateway? From the browser or from the Postman? We are sending the request to API gateway from the Postman. Click on send method. I've got the response. Go to console. Check it. Check it. These are the headers which are going to the server. These are the headers sent by Postman. Am I sending any headers, or these are the default headers which are going to the server? Default headers. Filter method called. That this is the proof to say that filter method called. So accept header is going. Accept header is going. User agent header is going. Postman token is going. Host is going. Host is going. That means to which host we are sending the request. Accept encode is going. Connection is going. So these are the headers which are going in the request by default. Am I sending these headers or I'm not sending these headers? Am I sending these headers or I'm not sending these headers? I'm not sending these headers. Clear the console. Send the request once again. Send the request again and go to the console. Again, what happened? Again, what happened? Filter method is called, headers are printed. So can I say in the API gateway, for every request, filter will be executed and routing will be executed? Routing will be executed. So can you see one header here? What is this header? What is this header? Postman token. Okay. Guys, recently in one interview, they asked a question for one of our students. When you are accessing your microservices, how do you understand request is coming from the Postman or the request is coming from the other application? You can send a request from one application to another application by using REST template or web client or VN client. You can send a HTTP request from the Postman. You can send a request from the browser also. How do you understand the request is coming to your application from the Postman? Come on. Correct. Here, if you observe, when I send a request from the Postman, Postman is sending a token in the header. Postman is sending a token in the header. Can I access these headers and can I check? Is there any header with a key called Postman token? If a Postman token header is available, that means the request, that means this request came from the Postman. Okay, let me copy these headers here. Okay, these are the headers that we have seen. Now, let me send the request again from the browser this time. Earlier, I sent the request from the Postman. When I send the request from the Postman, what is available here? postman token is available. Now let me send the same request by using browser. It is a GET request. You can send from the postman. You can send from the browser also. Localhost colon 3333/welcome. Localhost colon 3333/welcome. Now observe what are the headers going in the request from the browser. Am I setting any headers here? Can we set the headers here? No. In the postman we can set the headers, but in the browser can we set the headers, or we cannot set the headers in the browser? We cannot set the headers in the browser. Click on send. I am able to send a request. Go here. Now observe what all the headers are going. Filter method is called, host is available, connection, some browser related information, user agent, accept, sec fetch site information, accept encoding, accept language. Is there any token with a name called postman token? What is the meaning of that? This request is not from the postman. So in the API gateway, we can see the headers to understand, is this request is coming from the postman or not coming from the postman? How do you understand this request is coming from the postman or not coming from the postman? By using headers. If any request is coming from the postman, then postman token will be available. If any request is coming from the postman, then postman token will be available in the header. Along with those tokens, these all are the tokens. Are we sending, or these are the default tokens that we are getting? Who is sending these tokens? Browser sending some tokens by default. Postman also sending some tokens by default. Can we ask the client to send one user defined header value? Yes. Let us see. I'm going to tell to my clients, let me clear my console. Let me clear my console. API gateway console. Clear this console. Clear that. Nothing is available in the console. Go to the postman. Go to the postman. Headers. I will tell to my clients, boss, if you want to send the request, you need to send one token called security token. You need to send a token called security token. That security token value Ashok IT @123. So when you are sending a request to my microservices, you need to send a token like this. If your token is present in the header, then only your request is valid. Otherwise, your request is invalid. So that is my understanding. Are you getting my point? Good. Now see here, I added one token key as header key as a security token. Key can be anything. Value can be anything. These are just to understand this request is coming from our customers or not. Other customers don't know what token I am asking them to send. Only for my customers, I will give this token to send in the request. Now go to the console and check this one. API gateway console. Check this API gateway. Nothing is available in the API gateway. Now click on send. I send the request. I got the response. Go to console. Now here, can you see my token is coming in the request or not? My token is coming in the request or not? Now, by using this token, can I validate that request, whether it is a valid or not? Can I identify whether this request is a valid request or invalid request by using this token? Same concept we are going to implement by using JWT tokens. JSON Web Tokens concept will be available. In the real time, to secure our applications in the market, people are using JWT token. Okay, JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. We are going to lend that to JWT as part of Spring Security. So how we are going to secure our microservices in the real time? We will secure our microservices in the real time by using JWT tokens. Are you guys able to follow this? So currently, you understand what is the purpose of the filter in the API gateway? What is the purpose of the filter in the API gateway? What is the purpose of filter in the API gateway? Filter is used to validate the request. Filter is used to validate the request. Are you guys clear? Now, on what basis we can validate the request? On what basis we can understand whether this request is a valid or invalid. By using some body we don't use for validation of the request. Generally, headers will be used to validate the request. We will ask our customers or our clients who want to access our microservices. For them, we will tell, boss, in every request, you need to send one header. My API gateway will verify your request whether it contains that header or not. If that header is present, then only it is valid. Otherwise, it is not valid. Are you able to understand this? Good. Look at this filter now. Look at this filter. Suppose for example, guys, suppose for example, in this key and values are available, right? Suppose if the security token is not coming, I don't want to process the request. Then what we need to do? If security token is not coming, then I don't want to process the request. I want to send some error response to the client. How can we send that error response to the client? If this request is invalid, see here. Here, when this will be called? If the request is valid. Okay. Suppose if the request is invalid, what we can do is exchange.getResponse. Exchange.getResponse. Response.get status code before commit is committed. Set a status code. Response.set status code. Write and flush with the publisher. Response dot before commit buffer get cookies, get headers, get status code. I want to send some error response. Request dot get request dispatcher. Remote address request dot get local address, get method, get remote address, get URI, mutate. Exchange dot we got the get response. Response dot write and flush with the publisher. Okay. Write and flush with the publisher. Now, when I say response dot write and flush with the publisher, then what will happen? I will send error response to the client. So here, instead of executing this line, what I will do? Response dot write. Instead of calling this a chain.filter method, what we are going to do? Response.write and flush with this one. So what is the meaning of that? We will send error response to the client. So when we are sending that error response, response.set a status code. What is the status code we are going to set for the response? Response.set a status code. I'm going to specify HTTP status data bad request. HTTP status dot bad request. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? This is a invalid request. We are not going to process your request. When we will say that it is an invalid request? If validation is failed. If the request validation is failed, then we are going to send the error response saying that it is a invalid request. If the token is present in the request, then we will consider this as a valid request and we are going to forward that request back. Like this. In this filter, we have option to deal with the request data as well as with the response data also. So when we go for Spring Security, that JWT concept we are going to implement in the filter, we are going to validate that JWT token is valid or not. If that token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. So filter can take a decision whether to process that request or not. So inside this API gateway, we do have the filters as well as we do have the routings also. Filter is basically used to verify the request is valid or not. Every request coming to our microservices should go to API gateway. API gateway is entry point for microservices in our application. API gateway is entry point for microservices in our application. So now if you want to print the tokens, you can do this printing like this. By using this, you can get the token and you can validate that token also. Are you guys clear with this one? So you can check with this Cloud API Gateway, Spring Cloud API Gateway concept. The documentation is also available. How do we need to use this? What is this concept here? Global filters concept is available. So can we create more than one filter also? Yes, you can create more than one filter also. Forwarding the routing to the filter. Already we created this routing, and here like this you can create the routing and gateway filter, forward routing filter, load balancer, netty filter. So there are multiple filters available that we can configure in our application. Okay. So how to include Spring Cloud Gateway? So if you want to develop API Gateway by using this one, you need to add one dependency called Cloud Starter Gateway dependency. Come down. How it is going to work? This is the diagram. How many filters you add one after other? All the filters are going to execute. Currently we created one filter. How do we need to do the routing? Based on the cookies also, you can do the routing. Based on the headers also, you can do the routing. Okay. So based on the path also, you can do the routing here. Fully expanded arguments. Okay. I want to do the predicate with the cookie. If the cookie name is present, then only forward the request to this particular URL. Route to predicates. Based on the predicates also, you can do the forwarding. If any request comes after this date, then forward to this URL, something like this. After, before, if any request comes before this URL also, you can do the forwarding. So between, if the request comes between these dates, then forward the request to, which suppose if a request comes before 926, then only the request should go to this particular URL. So here in the predicate, you can use after concept, before concept, between concept also. By using cookies also, you can do the forwarding. Header also, suppose if the header is equal to this, if a header is present, then only forward the request to this URL. Host, if the host is some URL, then also you can forward. You can forward with the method also. If get request comes, post request comes, then only forward to this URL. If any other request comes, then don't forward this request. That means there are multiple ways available to implement the routing. What is the approach we implemented for the routing? Path approach. What are the other approaches available? Based on the method, you can do the routing. Based on the host, you can do the routing. Based on the header, you can do the routing. Based on the cookie, you can do the routing. Based on the date and time also, you can do the routing. Okay. We have done the routing based on the path configuration. Okay. Query parameters also. Based on the query parameters also, you can do the routing. Based on the remote address also, you can do the routing. There are multiple ways available in order to perform routing here. Now, filters concept is also available. Filter, global filters available. Combined global filter, gateway filter, ordering. You can create a filter by implementing global filter. We are implementing the filter chain.filter exchange. So what is the meaning of chain.filter exchange? Call the next filter. If the next filter not available, forward the request to the routing. So here forward routing filter is available. You can do the forwarding like this. Netty routing filter, WebSocket routing filters. So based on this requirement, we can configure these routings and filters that are required for our application. Timeouts configuration. Cloud gateway, HTTP client timeout. So if the request is taking more time, then I want to stop that request. Java routing. Programmatically also you can configure the routings. YML file also you can use to configure the routings. Configure the routings with the YML file is easy than with the Java. So this is the official documentation how we need to work with API gateway in our microservices application. Who is providing this API gateway? This API gateway is provided by Spring Cloud, which is open source. Suppose if you want to use commercial API gateway, then what we need to do? APG. APG is available from the Google. So let us see what is this APG. In some companies, they will use APG, which is used for API management. Okay. APG. What is this one? Whatever the backend API is available for our application, it is going to manage the APIs with unmatched scale, security, and performance. APG, API management is available, which is used to manage all our APIs. But it is a commercial API gateway. In the AWS also, we have the API gateway. Google API gateway is available. Spring Cloud API gateway is also available. Got it. Fine. So now look at this diagram. We are able to understand microservices architecture by using all the components. Below 3 boxes are pending. Kafka, Redis, config server. Tomorrow we are going to learn what is a config server in the Spring Boot. In the microservices, what is config server? How we are going to work with config server in our microservices application. Tomorrow's session is related to config server, guys. That is very simple. Very simple. Look at this diagram. You got the clarity? API gateway, service registry, admin server, Zipkin server, microservices, load balancing, PN client, inter-service communication, filter, and routing. So today I want you to complete this complete setup, guys. The document also I'm going to upload. In the document, next topic also I have given cloud config server. If anybody completed this microservices project implementation, I have given the procedure to develop config server application as well. How to develop the config server also I have given as a document. Okay, cool, fine. So with this, I'm stopping for today. We are going to meet in the tomorrow session. The people from JRTP, second mini project you need to submit it today. Today I'm going to check that second mini project in the class. Everyone bring your laptops. If all of you completed the second mini project, then only we will go for the next topic in the JRTP. If you are not completing the project, there is no use of completing the syllabus, right? So today, everyone should bring your laptop to the class. Online people also join the class from your laptop. I will ask you to show the assignment today. Whatever the development you have done for the second project, you need to submit today. Okay, cool. I'm going to upload this updated notes for the microservices. Please do the practice. I'm telling you once again, if you don't complete these 2 mini projects, I will not take the regular classes. If you complete those 2 projects, then only we will go for the next topic. Take it seriously, all of you. Sit here today and complete that. And bring your laptops. I want to check it, how much coding you have completed in that. Good. Notes is updated. Please do the practice and we'll meet in the today's evening JRTP class. Thank you, guys.